Dear friends, I have worked as a manager at a multinational finance company for over 30 years, and today I want to tell you a true story. Think of Elena and Marko. They graduated from the same university, started working at the same company, worked in the same position at the same status level for years, and earned almost the same salary throughout their careers. At 65, Marco retired with a $1.8 million investment, a home with the mortgage fully paid off and complete financial freedom, planning vacations whenever he wants, helping with his grandchildren's university expenses, and never looking at prices at the restaurants he visits or when shopping. Elena, on the other hand, retired with savings of $250,000, a mortgage with 15 years still left to pay, and constant financial anxiety, continuing to work part-time because her Social Security payments don't cover her expenses, staying up at night calculating whether she can cover her medications and property taxes. Same university, same employer, same position, same salary, but radically different outcomes. This difference did not appear in their 20s, when both were too young and too broke to make any meaningful financial progress. Nor did it appear in their 30s, when both built families and careers with similar approaches, nor in their 50s, because by then the trajectory had already been set. The divergence happened entirely in their 40s, when one of them made a series of decisions in that decade that seemed small at the time, and the other made different decisions that also seemed small, and neither realized in that moment that they were shaping the form of the rest of their lives. Your 40s represent the most important financial decade you will live through, not because the decisions are harder than in other decades, but because the risks compound in ways that aren't clearly visible until it's too late to change course. Today, I will show you exactly why your 40s carry such enormous importance, the specific decisions that separate a comfortable retirement from a stressful one, and what you can do right now, regardless of your age, to end up on the right side. Let me start by explaining the math that makes your 40s so disproportionately powerful. Your 40s sit at the intersection of three financial forces that never come together at any other point in your life. The first force is the period when you reach your highest earning power. For most professionals, income peaks between the ages of 42 and 55. The raises that seemed significant in your 30s slow down or stop, but the absolute amount you earn is higher than ever and will likely never be this high again, meaning your 40s are the years in which you have the most raw material to build wealth. Someone earning $120,000 at 45 can save more absolute dollars than at any previous point in their career. The second force is the remaining duration of compound interest. At 40, you still have 20 to 25 years until traditional retirement, which is enough time for money to roughly quadruple based on historical market returns. A dollar you invest at 40 becomes roughly $4 by 65. At 50, you have 15 years left, and a dollar becomes roughly $2.50. At 55, you have 10 years left, and a dollar becomes roughly $2. The multiplying effect of compound interest drops rapidly with each passing year. So your 40s represent the last decade in which meaningful compounding is still possible. Money you invest at 42 generates far more return than money you would invest at 52. The third force is expense stability. By the time you reach your 40s, many major expenses have peaked or begun to decline. Children become more independent and eventually leave home. What once barely fit your household budget now fits comfortably. Your professional wardrobe is already built. The furniture is already bought. This stability creates a potential margin that simply didn't exist in your 30s when every expense category was growing at once. The real question is whether that margin flows into savings or gets consumed by lifestyle expansion. When these three forces combine, they create an extraordinary decade of leverage. You have more income than ever before. You have enough time left for compound interest to have a serious effect, and you have a potential margin arising from expenses stabilizing. The person who captures this alignment builds substantial wealth. The person who misses it faces mathematical constraints afterward that can never be made up for. Now, let me walk you through the concrete numbers that demonstrate this leverage. Imagine Elena and Marko both reach age 40 with $100,000 in retirement savings and both earn $110,000 a year. Both could reasonably save 15% of their income, that is $16,500 a year. Marco actually saved that 15% consistently, investing in diversified index funds that returned an average of 8% annually between 40 and 65, accumulating roughly $1.35 million by retirement and combined with Social Security payments, reaching a comfortable retirement with a significant margin. Elena, on the other hand, reduced her contribution rate in her 40s in order to expand her lifestyle. Saving on average only 2% of her income, she renovated her house, bought nicer cars, took more expensive vacations. At 50, she faced reality and panicked, starting to put 20% of her income toward retirement. But even so, by 65, she had only managed to save around $590,000. The difference between Marco's frugal 40s and Elena's belated saving corresponds to a gap of $760,000 in retirement savings. Decisions made over 1 decade created a gap that could not be closed by later adjustments. Because contributions made in your 40s compound for 25 years, while contributions made in your 50s only have 15 years. The mathematical leverage of time can never be recovered later through increased contributions. Let's go through together the decisions that matter most in this critical decade. The first decision concerns housing. Your 40s usually bring a desire to upgrade your living situation. Children grow and need more space. You've achieved success and want a home that reflects it. Given your income, the mortgage payments seem manageable. Yet, this housing upgrade decision may be the most important financial choice you make in your entire life. A family moving from a $350,000 home to a $600,000 home increases their monthly housing cost by roughly $1,500 to $2,000 over the 25 years between 40 and 65. That amounts to $18,000 to $24,000 a year that cannot be invested. That annual difference reaches $900,000 to $1.3 million in retirement savings, meaning the home upgrade can literally cost $1 million in retirement savings. I'm not saying nobody should buy a bigger home. I'm only saying most people make this decision without understanding its real cost. They think they're spending $1,800 more a month on housing, but they're actually spending over $1 million of their retirement savings. The person who stays in the modest home and redirects the difference into investments creates options the upgrader will never have. They can retire earlier, work part time instead of full time in their 60s, help their children buy homes, and absorb financial emergencies before they turn into disasters. The second decision concerns vehicles. The 40s often bring more expensive car purchases. The practical sedan gets replaced with a luxury vehicle. The reliable SUV gets traded for a prestige model. A family driving two $45,000 vehicles instead of two $28,000 vehicles carries roughly $34,000 more in car debt, pays higher insurance premiums, and faces more expensive repairs. Over time, this vehicle difference leads to a loss of $200,000 to $400,000 in retirement savings, depending on how often the vehicles are replaced. The third decision concerns children's lifestyle and education. Your 40s are usually the most expensive years of raising children. Teenagers need cars, insurance, activities, and eventually college. Some families take out parent loans exceeding $100,000 to send their children to prestigious universities. Others cash out retirement accounts to fund education. Some stop retirement contributions entirely during the college years. Each of these decisions mortgages the parents' retirement to fund the children's education. The children enter their highest earning years with their entire career ahead of them, while the parents enter their 50s with depleted savings and barely a decade to recover. Families who navigate this successfully usually make uncomfortable choices, requiring their children to attend state universities or schools that offer scholarships, expecting their children to contribute through work or loans, continuing retirement contributions even when college bills create pressure. The fourth decision concerns career risk tolerance. Your 40s offer career moves that can significantly increase your income, new companies hiring you for senior positions, startups offering equity, sectors where your skills command a premium. Many people become increasingly risk averse exactly in their 40s, precisely when they should be taking strategic risks. They've gained seniority and comfort at their current employer. The idea of starting over somewhere new feels threatening, yet your 40s represent your last real opportunity for income growth. By the time you reach 50, hiring discrimination starts to affect opportunities. Someone who takes strategic career risks at 43 still has time to recover if the risk doesn't pay off. Someone who waits until 53 does not have that opportunity. The income gap between staying comfortable and pursuing growth can exceed $30,000 to $40,000 a year. Over a decade, that means an additional $300,000 to $400,000 in earnings. The fifth decision concerns whether or not to accept lifestyle inflation. Your 40s bring social pressure to display success, colleagues take extravagant vacations, neighbors renovate their kitchens, friends buy boats and second homes. Some families resist this pressure and maintain their previous lifestyle because they already felt comfortable in their late 30s. Others expand to keep up with their peer group and put every extra dollar of increased income into visible consumption. The difference in retirement outcomes between these two approaches often exceeds $1 million. Now, let me tell Elena's story in more detail to show how these decisions produce cumulative outcomes. Elena married her husband in her late 20s. By the time she turned 40, she had $185,000 in her retirement account, a modest home worth $320,000 and $180,000 remaining on the mortgage, two children aged 12 and 9. Combined household income had reached $165,000. They had to make choices about how they would manage the next decade. Her husband insisted on upgrading their home. A similar home in a nicer neighborhood would cost $575,000. Elena hesitated, but eventually agreed. The home upgrade increased their monthly expenses by $1,650. To compensate, they reduced their retirement contribution rate from 15% to 6%, telling themselves this was temporary. 2 years later, her husband's car developed problems. Instead of repairing it, they decided they deserved a nicer car. The new SUV added $680 a month to their expenses. Elena's car was replaced a year later. The children's high school years brought private sports training, test prep classes, and college visits. When their first child enrolled in an out-of-state university, Elena and her husband took out a parent loan instead of asking their daughter to choose a more affordable option. Throughout their 40s, they never felt financially irresponsible. Each individual decision seemed reasonable. By the time they reached 50, they had $240,000 in their retirement accounts, only $55,000 more than at 40, despite a decade of contributions and market growth. Once the children were finally independent, Elena and her husband were determined to close the gap. They maxed out their retirement contributions. By 65, they had accumulated $685,000. This amount seemed sufficient until they reviewed their retirement projections, but they would likely run out of money by age 82, meaning they would need to sell the house, significantly cut expenses, or keep working into their 70s. Now let me tell Marko's story. At 40, Marko was at a fairly similar point to Elena. Combined household income was $155,000. with $165,000 in retirement savings and two children aged 11 and 8. His wife suggested moving to a bigger house. Marco strongly opposed it because he had personally read about the mathematical impact housing decisions have on retirement outcomes. They decided to stay in their current home, though it initially felt like a sacrifice. The $1,650 monthly difference went directly into their retirement accounts. When he needed to replace his car, he bought a 3-year-old certified pre-owned vehicle. When it came time for college, they spoke honestly with their children about costs. Both children attended state universities on scholarships. Throughout their 40s, Marco and his wife felt like they were swimming against the social current. Their lifestyle looked modest compared to their peers. By 50, they had $580,000 in their retirement accounts, aggressive saving and market returns having more than tripled their balance over the decade. By 65, they had accumulated $1.65 million. They had fully paid off their home and could now retire completely, travel extensively, and never have to worry about money again. This mathematical difference between Elena and Marco did not come from different incomes or different investment skills. It came entirely from different decisions made in their 40s. And what strikes me most about these two stories is that in their 40s, both of them were equally satisfied with their lives. Research consistently shows that lifestyle inflation only produces temporary boosts in happiness. Within 18 to 24 months, people adjust to their new normal. Elena didn't actually enjoy her 40s more than Marco, she just spent more. The additional spending provided no lasting satisfaction while permanently restricting the rest of their decades. Now, let me offer guidance specific to your current situation. If you're listening to this in your 20s or 30s, you have the chance to know in advance. You now know that your 40s will bring constant pressure to expand your lifestyle during your highest earning years. So build the habits that will protect you now. Set up automatic retirement contributions that you will never reduce. Define what is enough for you before your income makes overspending possible. If you're entering your 40s, you are at the most important financial turning point of your life. The decisions you make over the next decade will determine whether you experience a comfortable or a stressful retirement. Review every major expense category now. Is your home the right size? Are your vehicles transportation or status symbols? Are you funding your retirement or your lifestyle? Every yes to lifestyle expansion means a no to retirement security. If you're in your late 40s and find yourself in the wrong story, you still have time to change course. Every percentage point you add to your savings rate now will improve your outcome. Consider radical options, your lifestyle. Inflated peers wouldn't think of. Consider downsizing now rather than in retirement, selling expensive vehicles, taking higher paying jobs even if it requires change. If you've already passed your 40s and have insufficient savings, focus on what's within your control. Delay Social Security payments to maximize benefits. Consider working longer. Consider downsizing to free up equity. Now let's address the psychological factor underlying all these decisions. The difficulty of being frugal in your 40s comes from feeling that you've earned the right to enjoy your success. After 20 years of working, the urge to finally live well feels entirely justified. So when does real satisfaction actually come? This is exactly the framing that traps most people. The satisfaction you seek through lifestyle expansion provides temporary pleasure, followed by permanent restriction. The renovated house feels exciting for 18 months, then becomes normal and permanently reduces your retirement savings. The luxury car is exciting for a year, then becomes just a car and permanently limits your options. Real satisfaction is found not in consuming your highest earning years, but in transforming those years into lasting freedom. The person who resists lifestyle inflation in their 40s experiences genuine satisfaction every day of a comfortable retirement. while the person who inflates their lifestyle experiences genuine stress every day of a constrained retirement. The discomfort of frugality in your 40s lasts a decade. Its reward lasts 30 years or more. The pleasure of indulgence in your 40s lasts 2 to 3 years. Its consequences last 30 years or more. Imagine yourself at 70, sitting on a porch or in a living room, the morning quiet. In one version of this future, you're thinking about which grandchild you'll visit this month, planning a trip to a place you've always wanted to see, at ease because unexpected expenses don't threaten your stability. In the other version, you're calculating whether this month's Social Security payment will cover your medications, worrying about what will happen if your car needs repairs, anxious about an uncertain future with limited options. In both versions, you made your 40s decisions decades earlier. Both are living with the consequences. Which version you become depends almost entirely on what you do between 40 and 50. Not on luck, not on income, but on decisions about housing, vehicles, education, career, and lifestyle that accumulate just like money does. Your 40s will end sooner or later. Whether you make conscious choices or default ones, this decade will pass. The only question is which version of your 70-year-old self you are creating. Your 40s will determine everything. This is not a burden, but an opportunity. And how you make the most of this opportunity is entirely up to you, dear friends. Remember, this information won't make you a billionaire overnight. But with the right mindset, it can completely transform your financial picture within 10 years. I'm waiting for your questions in the comments, and I read every single one. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on notifications. See you in the next video.